His heart is hurting right now, that for everyone that came out for what should have been just a really fun night. Now, police in this area say they have the one suspect down, but they are looking for his companion. They're saying her name is Mary Lou Danley. They have put out a poster with her photo and what they believe is her car, asking anyone with information to call 911 because they have some very serious questions for Mary Lou Danley. And if anyone knows who she is or what connection she had to being here to this incident, they should call 911 immediately. Heather, Rob?
All right, so they believe at least one of the vehicles that they're looking for belongs to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And should we bring up those? Let's bring up those license plates again and the vehicles attached to them.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren, so much. And is it what, a Hyundai?
Yeah, the two vehicles that they're looking for. One is the Hyundai Tucson. I guess that belongs to the Mary Lou, who they're looking for. Mary Lou Danley, believed to be the roommate of the suspect. The other vehicle, the Chrysler Pacifica Touring, with the license plate there, you see 19D401.
And again, we don't know the connection. Mary Lou Danley could just be a roommate, could just maybe know something about the suspect or why this happened. We are not sure. But just to update you at this point, to bring you back to the scene and exactly what has happened. If you're just waking up this morning, it is a terrible scene in Las Vegas. It's really just a sickening display of the worst of humanity. A man in the Mandalay Bay Hotel gets a room facing this concert venue where maybe 20,000 people are attending a 3-day country music festival. He gets on the balcony, 32nd floor, and opens fire with a high-powered automatic rifle into this crowd of people just watching a music concert at about 10:30 last night, Las Vegas time, West Coast time, and opens fire, killing at least 20 people at this point, injuring more than 100 before police finally closed in on him in that room on the 32nd floor and shot and killed this individual who they say acted alone. And at this point, we do not know a motive for why this has happened. That is the big question this morning. Why did this man open fire?
All we do know from the sheriff who gave a news conference about an hour or so ago there in Las Vegas, he does believe that this was only one shooter involved. Las Vegas, the immediate area, people being told to shelter in place. But hopefully this was one shooter, and hopefully nothing else will happen, because it was just a horrific way to end this concert that was supposed to be fun for families, ending on this note, and then people waking up to this news this morning.
Yeah, the investigation continues, but it does appear that the violence at this point is over.
Yes.
That will do it for us. Fox and Friends begins right now.
Thanks for joining us.
Those are gunshots, and this is a Fox News alert. That was the moment of horror unfolding overnight in Las Vegas, where a gunman opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort, towering over a packed country musical festival with 30,000 people in attendance.
At least 20 people are dead, including 2 off-duty police officers. More than 100 people are injured.
All right, the gunshots sending people running for their lives, including concert headliner Jason Aldean. Listen to him start and listen to him stop.
There were a couple of bodies there, and started loading them into the back of a truck.
Witnesses say those shots went on for at least 5 minutes into a crowd of thousands outside the Mandalay Bay Resort.
This is a live look on the Las Vegas Strip, where right now people say the male suspect is dead. They believe that he acted as a lone wolf, but the hunt is now on for that woman right there. Her picture's on the screen on the right. Mary Lou Danley, police say is her name, believed to be a companion traveling with him throughout the Las Vegas area. Police also combing the city for 2 suspicious cars.
That's right.
So you have a concert that had a series of some of the biggest names in country music. When Jason Aldean goes to play, this is one of his best, most noteworthy songs. And he plays through it because many people were saying, some eyewitnesses, you know, we thought it's the end of this whole concert. Maybe this is part of the fireworks display. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is part of the pyrotechnics that happen at the end of concerts like this.
There was such confusion. I mean, given the fact that, okay, so that is the stage. People have been there for hours, and then gunfire rained down from the 32nd floor of the hotel. This musical event took place essentially in a big open area across the street from the Mandalay Bay. We've got some audio of the moment from the police scanner when the police were able to break down the door and get the accomplice. Listen to this.
We have the hallway contained, the room where the shots were fired from. It is contained right now. If you can avoid coming through those doors, please do. Suspect down in 135, 432 Mandalay Bay. I have the floor.
Suspect down. No firearms. This is definitely the point where the firing into the crowd.
We do have one suspect down and in custody per SWAT.
Information and potential name. Possibly related with the suspect. It is a M-Life Platinum Players Card with the name of Marilou Danley. Marilou Danley.
So
Wow.
two things come to mind. That lady's name, we don't know her connection to him.
Nope.
We just know police are looking for her. They had a press
Person of
conference
interest.
early this morning calling her a person of interest. Second thing is how amazing the police is. This is a crowd, 30,000 people plus at this concert. You have someone on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and police are able to knock on his door, take it down, and take him down in a matter of minutes.
Know the right floor and then get to the room.
Yeah,
and
isn't
then
that
who's going to be
amazing?
the first to go through that room knowing there's a machine gun inside?
True.
Adam Housley has been there talking to witnesses all night since this happened last night. Adam, it's amazing what has taken place since you first hopped on the air.
Yeah, it is. You know, you mentioned, I think Ainsley mentioned about them finding that person on the 32nd floor. They blew the door off. They used explosives to blow the door off and get inside to get access. You know, Brian, this happened around 10 p.m. Here local time. We were already in town. Our hotel actually looks down and we can see the Mandalay in the distance. And all of a sudden we heard the sirens, and it's like you don't hear normally, not just one or two. It was seemingly hundreds from all directions, and of course we came down here with them. This location here, I'm going to step away and show you over my right shoulder. That's the concert venue right there. They've turned the lights back on as part of the investigation, and they actually have someone's crossed the tape line here. If you hear some yelling in the background, but that's the lights have just been turned on maybe in the last 15 minutes or so as part of the investigation to be able to let them see more. We know there are still bodies inside that concert venue right now. We had a chance at one point. A man walked out who had some very good information, and right away I could tell he was somebody who was a first responder just by the terminology he used. As we started talking, he told me he was a Los Angeles Fire Department member, firefighter, and he had come here with his wife to celebrate a birthday. Many people inside this concert were first responders and military. They'd come to listen to country music, and so a lot of them knew how to respond to this stuff. He was inside the entire time. He talked about a scene where people were hiding under the stage, where people were trying to find safe locations, where he was literally dragging bodies around, and they were using whatever they could to get people out. Take a listen. I mean, when we walked up on this earlier, I said that was probably used as a gurney. When I just met you, you walked over and you said, you know what that is? And I said, that's a freezer that's probably used as a gurney. So you're telling me that really was, they used it
as a gurney, and the tables were inside as where his gurney is as well. They were using everything we can. We're using the rails between the partitions in between. We were carrying bodies out with that as well.
We got here again not long after they at least, well, they hadn't really secured this area. They told us we were all right, but they were telling people to stay in place. Police all through this area were in tactical gear, meaning they had helmets on. They were carrying long rifles, semi-automatics. We know that from where I'm standing, guys. There's the location right there. A quarter mile down the street. You can't see from our camera angle, but there are flashing lights. 3 bodies are down there on tables. The people had carried them from this facility a quarter mile down the street, trying to get them away from the gunfire, and unfortunately they didn't make it. That man who we talked to says he pronounced about 20 people. That firefighter from Los Angeles here to celebrate a birthday ended up pronouncing 20 people at least dead, and he had blood all over his boots and all over his shirt. We met another kid, really, he was young, who walked out with no shirt on. He had used his clothes to put them over people. He'd used them for bandages as well. We met a number of people like that. He had blood all over his arms, all over his chest, and it was not his own blood. Take a listen to what he told me.
I was here enjoying the concert just like every other fellow American here. And, things happen, brother. What goes on here isn't American. That's not what we're about, and this is not okay. Other people run, that's okay, that's on them. I'm here for everybody else.
How many people did you help? How many people
7.
did you see down?
How many people did I see down? Probably close to 20.
In various, obviously, conditions?
Look, man, I'm not wearing any clothes up here. Everyone who I thought, has passed on. they have an article of my clothing covering their eyes, covering part of their body. Everyone who I saw breathing, I helped, man.
We heard story after story like that. People walking out. Some didn't want to speak to us. We didn't push the issue. Again, about 10 or 15 or 10:20 is when we first heard the sirens. So maybe 10 minutes or so afterwards, they came from all parts of Las Vegas. If you haven't been here, you know it's very well spread out. Our hotel actually looks down here, or maybe 3 miles away. We came down. That's when we saw police in tactical gear and people coming out by the hundreds. We also were in touch with one of our interns who actually was here with her parents, and she was telling me a story as we were driving in that they were hiding. About 20 people were hiding in the basement of the Hooters Hotel, which where I'm standing is directly in front of me, so maybe a quarter mile directly in front of me. They had run out of the concert. They jumped into some random car, got a ride to the Hooters Hotel, and people were hiding in the basement in a closet. And I was on the phone with them and, of course, told them to stay inside. People in the Flamingo Hotel taking cover. People in the Luxor taking cover. We know at this hour there are still several hundred people in the Hooters Hotel and the Tropicana that are not allowed. Sorry, I said Flamingo. I meant Tropicana. The Tropicana and the Hooters Hotel that are not allowed out. They're being kept there because they want to be interviewed because they are possible witnesses in what's happened here. They are witnesses. They were inside. Back here live, I can tell you what's happening here. When I spoke with the firefighter from Los Angeles, Robert Hayes, he was inside with SWAT. He was wearing a vest. You saw in our interview, they gave him that vest because he's a first responder, and he obviously was inside doing the work and pronouncing, unfortunately, people dead and trying to help who he could. In there right now, we know that there's a tactical team. They're going through. They're trying to find any possible evidence. Of course, there's a lot of evidence. You heard all the different gunfire taking place. By most people's count, people that were either military or law enforcement I spoke to, they believe there were 3 separate bursts of gunfire. That's not scientific. It hasn't been confirmed by law enforcement, but that is what we've been told by one after another. These are Marines, police, firefighters who were here who would know that information. We also know that 3 people have been detained. We don't know if they'll have any connection to this. It may just be detained and let go, but we know that 3 people at least have been detained in regards to possibly being connected to this at this hour. As I look around, you still see emergency vehicles coming in and out. At this point, guys, what the sad thing is the ambulances leaving now are not carrying people who can be saved. When they leave, they're taking people out that didn't make it. Back to you guys.
Adam, what about the airport? Because I was told this morning that flights in and out were temporarily halted as a response to this. A lot of people travel in and out of Las Vegas. What's the latest there?
Yeah, temporarily they were. We're now told it's back open. The flights here are all 24 hours a day. And when you fly into Vegas, you come in from the east, you're coming from New York, the hotel directly ahead of you is the Mandalay. So that gives you kind of a perspective. The airport's not far from where I'm at. To my right, maybe a mile or 2. So, in fact, we passed by the executive airport where all the private jets fly in on the way to this location. So we're not far from the airport at all, but I'm told at this hour it's back open and fully operational.
All right. Also, Adam, just about 2 hours ago, the sheriff out there gave a press briefing where he talked about what they knew, revealed that 100 people had been injured, at least 20 dead. Also, 2 police officers believed to have been killed, 2 other on-duty police officers hurt. They mentioned the woman of interest, Mary Lou Danley, described as an Asian female, 4 feet 11. What do we have? Apparently, according to the scanner traffic that we heard, her player's card was found in the room with the shooter. Is that what you understand?
We heard the same thing, Steve. I mean, there's a lot of information coming in, as you know, especially with social media. People sending me stuff, viewers at Fox, and some of them are former law enforcement that are finding things online, that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of that information coming in right now. There hasn't been confirmed by anybody in law enforcement about that player's card being found in the room, and if that's the connection here. There was somebody suggesting she might have been a roommate. We don't know that. A lot of suggestions out there right now. What we know is that this information is still fluid. There's still a lot of stuff going on. Again, I know that 3 people have been detained here. Don't know if they're going to be officially connected to this in any way, but that's where we are at this hour. It's interesting because when I talked with Robert Hayes, the firefighter from LA's Venice Beach Fire Station is where it's located in Venice Beach, California, and he was telling me that before we ever heard from the sheriff, he's like, I said on our air, I pronounced roughly 20 people dead myself, and you could see it in his eyes, the pain. And like he told me, the hardest thing for him was his wife, his friends, they know he's a firefighter. They know he does things, he tells the stories, but they haven't ever seen him do it. And he says to have his wife and her friends there, he got them covered, undercover, and then to see their faces as he's dragging bodies by them, that's something that, they're never going to forget. And so many people here, it's just, it's hard to think. I mean, we were in Aurora, we were in San Bernardino, and it's just, you want this stuff to go away. Yeah. And you feel horrible for these people. You just feel horrible for them.
Adam, my first thought, after seeing what happened in France and then seeing what happened in Canada, and of course the assailant had an ISIS flag in his car, you're thinking, wow, are they going for an iconic city like Las Vegas, who, as many people brought up, has all the things that Muslim extremists don't like? But I think the sheriff went out of his way in his press conference about 2 hours ago to say there's no indication of that now. Have you heard it now? Have you heard anything else that maybe gives an idea of who this guy was?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stuff that's sent to me, but it's not confirmed, so I don't want to go with it. I haven't heard anything on that realm. I've heard some stuff in some other realms that you could probably, on your own at home, deduce. I mean, go online, take a look. Some of the stuff seems to be legit, but we can't go with that yet. They don't believe it's terror related, and I from everything we've been told here, the folks that were inside, the folks that knew about the door being blown off in the hotel, that are law enforcement, I believe what they tell me, and that's what they're telling me, that at this point they don't see any connection. But there's some other things they're looking into, and I'll leave it at that.
Adam, we know that 20 plus are dead, according to the police officer from the press conference, from the sheriff, actually. Yeah, did you see any children coming out? It did happen after 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. You do see children here in Vegas late at night on the Strip. That's a unique situation because it's Las Vegas. The firefighter told me, and a few others told me, that there were children inside. He was in there, as you know, as I've told you, with SWAT. He was in there until the end. They gave him a special vest to help identify him, even though he was off duty because of his expertise. The good news is he said he did not see any children that were victims. He didn't. He said there were a few in there. There weren't a lot. It was mostly adults. But he did not see any, and he was in there till the end and knows how many bodies were on the ground because he obviously pronounced them dead on scene. So that's what I know right now.
All right.
And the interesting thing now, guys, is there's so many people around here. It's a concert. It's the end of a 3-day event. A lot of alcohol involved. So you still have a lot of people around here, even this late hour, with all the energy and adrenaline and coming down off things. And so law enforcement's having to deal with that as well. People that normally this place is, even this time of the morning, is still a lot of people out and about, especially after this kind of concert. So there's a lot of work here to be done, and a lot of healing needs to be done as well.
Right, and Adam, we're very fortunate you were out there covering OJ getting out of prison, and you're able to scramble quickly and adjust your beat. Thanks, Adam. Don't go anywhere. We'll use you. Go back and forth with you for the next 3 hours.
Adam interviewed that teenager. It's no one should ever experience that, especially at that young of an age. No one should have to see something like this. But he talked about his generosity, how he took his shirt off, helping other people, and we've heard countless stories like that.
Yeah,
Listen.
in fact, let's listen to some of them.
Were you carrying people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both were.
As long as they weren't,
right,
gone.
Understood. You were trying to help whoever you could that needed help.
Yeah, we're trying to get people out. That's all that matters.
What are you feeling right now? I mean, it's got
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken.
Because anybody I met tonight, I told them that I'm an American and that we're brothers just because we're American tonight.
You do what you can. You do what you can. I mean, we're all together, red, white, blue, whatever. You try and help each other. So I pray that they, they made it out, and whoever did this is neutralized.
Yeah.
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken.
Because anybody I met tonight, I told them that I'm an American and that we're brothers just because we're American tonight.
How great is it to act like that under pressure? I'm sure most of them, like most of you out there, never been, thankfully, in a situation like that. And to think that your instincts are to help rather than run is fantastic.
And they walked into the concert wearing clothes, obviously, come out without their shirts on, using them as tourniquets to save people's lives.
Sure, and as we heard from Adam, there were in attendance with this big concert, the Route 91 Harvest Festival, with over 30,000 people there. There were a lot of first responders, and there were a lot of military, and there were a lot of law enforcement. And what do? They responded. Meanwhile, speaking of law enforcement, Sheriff Joseph Lombardo from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, Sheriff's Department, explained how they took the shooter down and who they are now looking for.
There was a shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Officers responded to that location and engaged the suspect at that location. He is dead currently. He has been identified. He is a local resident. I will not release his name at this time, but we are interested in a companion that is traveling with him, and her name is, and I will provide you the name, so please be accurate on this, is Mary Lou Danley, M-A-R-I-L-O-U, last name spelled D-A-N-L-E-Y. She is a Asian female, approximately 4'11", 4'11", weight of 111 pounds. We have not located her at this time, and we are interested in talking to her for follow-up. 2 vehicles we're interested in locating, and we need your assistance with that. We have a Hyundai Tucson with Nevada plate 114 Baker 40 B40, and a Chrysler Pacifica Touring Nevada plate 19D401. These are the plates registered to the suspect that we located at the Mandalay Bay.
Okay, so that was the sheriff an hour or two ago talking about what they knew, who they were looking for. As we just heard in the live update from Las Vegas, Adam Housley said they have detained 3 people. We don't know if Mary Lou is one of the people they have detained at this point.
Right. So obviously at that point you don't have it. It's very rare to get a first press conference to get that much information out. The only thing we didn't get that I thought was substantial is we don't have his name yet, but he's a local resident, which means maybe somebody knows him or seen him around. And the fact that police need our help to find this woman, I think is also very significant.
And to find these 2 cars, the Chrysler Pacifica Touring, which is a van, an SUV-type van, like a minivan, and the Honda Tucson, which is an SUV. Now, Justin Olson was there with his girlfriend and 10 of their friends, and he joins us now. Justin, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you saw there at the concert, what you saw, what you heard, what it was like.
Hi, guys. It was really surreal. We were towards the back of the stage, in the concert area, but towards the back of the stage, and just started hearing some popping noises. And at first, you think that I thought that maybe there was a problem with the speaker system, like a short or something like that. And then it stopped, started again, and then your next inclination is, okay, this is some fireworks. Somebody's lighting off fireworks. And then they stopped again, and then started up again, even louder this time. Saw Jason rip off his guitar and start running towards the edge of the stage, and at that time you knew that this was something very bad. Everybody was hitting the floor, and you knew you had to get out of there at that point. Everybody just started running towards the back. People were hit. It could have been any one of us.
Sure.
Luckily, we were okay. But I mean, it could have been any one of us around at any time. And luckily, we did get out the back. People were knocking over fences, barriers. I mean, VIP areas were just trampled over. People were. It was pandemonium and it was chaotic, but people were trying to help each other out.
And Justin, right now we're looking inside one of the VIP areas. When you say, Jason, you're talking about Jason Aldean, who was on the stage at the time. Could you tell how many shots were fired before they were able to take the shooter out, and where they were coming from? Because obviously we know now it was the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort, but could you see, for instance, muzzle fire or anything from up there?
I didn't at the time, but as we, maybe 20 minutes later, we were talking to some folks, and they said that they did see flashes coming from Mandalay Bay. So I didn't see that at the time, but other people did. But we just had no idea what was happening. You're trying to make sense of it all in the moment, and you just knew you had to get out of there as fast as possible.
Hey, Justin, are you like me, not around guns a lot of your life, and I probably would not know instinctively what that noise came from? Was there a sense that this might be part of the concert because it was one of the closing acts of the concert?
Not so much. I mean, it really came out of nowhere. And again, initially, I thought it was a problem. Maybe the speaker system was shorting out. You thought it was an electrical problem. But then you just knew, because, you know, you hear about the Bataclan in France, and you remember thinking back to Orlando. And it took a little while to sink in, but once it did, you knew what was going on, and you just knew that you had to get out. It was very surreal. It didn't make sense at the moment, but in the back of your head, you know this is bad. This is a shooting. You can't believe it's happening here and now.
Right.
But at that moment, it was just about trying to get out.
Justin, was anyone around you hit? What did you see? Did you see anyone that wasn't breathing or paramedics coming in to help people?
No, not directly around us. I had heard as we got out that the front of the stage was targeted first, and I think that's why we started to hear the gunfire sound louder and louder over the course of a few minutes, because I'm imagining that this shooter was moving the muzzle of his gun from the front of the stage towards the back of the stage, and causing it to sound louder to us where we were. Nobody was hit directly around us, but again, I mean, it could have been any one of us. Could have been somebody 10 feet from us, and I wouldn't have known it necessarily.
Right, Justin. Because it was a big event with 30,000 people, it was the Route 91 Harvest Festival. A lot of country acts. There was obviously fencing all around the venue. So when people started running, you know, this guy with the gun probably thought, you know, they're all in there. They are, you know, there's nowhere for them to go. But what did they do with the fences?
Yeah, we were all headed towards the back, and people were tearing down fences. People were hiding underneath the seating. There was like raised up seating areas. People didn't know what to do. They didn't know whether to stay put where they were.
Well, you didn't know where the shots were coming from.
We didn't know. We had no idea. We didn't know if this was somebody on the ground that was moving towards us with a rifle. It didn't occur to us that it was coming from Mandalay Bay at the time. So nobody knew what to do, but everybody was just smashing everything in front of them to get out, remove any barrier that was in front of any of us anywhere. And there were kids there as well. There were young kids, but people were helping them out. As chaotic as it was, people were trying to be helpful to each other and respectful and trying to help the younger folks. I did notice that, which was surprising, because it was mass hysteria. But people were trying to be as calm as you could be in that situation, but just everybody knew that we had to get out.
All right, Justin, thanks so much. I appreciate you in this very difficult time going over what you saw, because people around the world are watching, trying to make sense of it after a carnage-filled weekend. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Justin. We're glad you're safe.
Okay, so what we know right now, according to the police, at least 20 dead, 100 injured. 2 police officers are believed to have been among the dead, at least 2 wounded on duty. We know that the shooter was on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. We found online, actually, the point of view from the shooter. That is from the 32nd floor. And as you can see, that open area down below there, that is where the Route 91 Harvest Festival was taking place. So if the shooter was right there with that point of view, you can understand how all those people, 30,000 people below him, would be an easy target.
They say that about 14 of those 100+ are wounded. About 14 are considered in critical condition. They are looking for the companion of the shooter. They know who it is. They say it's a local guy. They have not, but they are actually looking for this woman, and she is 4'11". She is a Filipino, or some type of Filipino, Hawaiian, or
described
Asian
as an Asian female.
Asian female, and you just wonder what they know about her. But I know this: they need help to track her down.
The reason she is a person of interest is because apparently when they burst into the room on the 32nd floor after they had killed the shooter, they found, according to one report, her player's card that allowed essentially VIP access to the Mandalay Bay. They found her name on it. That's why she is a person of interest.
Mary Lou Danley is her name. But now let's bring in Steve Rogers. He's a former senior military intelligence officer on the FBI Joint Terrorist Task Force. Steve, right now from that press conference 2 hours ago, they say we don't know about any religious affiliation and there's no reason to think this is terror, although the act is a terroristic act.
Clearly a terrorist act. The questions that need to be answered are, was there any international nexus? Was it homegrown? Were they radicalized? Now, how do we get the answer?
They say local, right?
Yes, absolutely. How do we get the answer to those questions? Brian, you just mentioned something very important. They need help. I could tell you from what I'm hearing this morning that President Trump has made it very clear that he's going to use every available resource in this government to track these people down and to find out exactly who's involved in creating these horrific events.
What I would like to do is let's listen to the
on the scene, but it was seconds. I mean, one weapon or automatic weapon you can reload in seconds. But the point is, and the questions that need to be answered is, what on earth was the motive here? That's critically important. He's dead. They'll do a forensics on him, but her. The woman is key to this investigation, and they've got to find her rather quickly.
Well, I mean, he might have just used her ID, might have just had it on him incidentally, coincidentally. We don't know. We are unsure of the connection of the woman to the shooter at this point.
Well, some say roommate.
And hopefully, if she has no involvement, she'll turn herself in and clear that up. But I do believe this was pre-planned. And the question is, was he radicalized? Why? Why did he do this?
And how hard is it to get a machine gun into the Mandalay Bay? Could you put it in a golf bag?
You could break these things down. These weapons could be broken down, disassembled, assembled. We don't know how long he was in that room. Was he assembling this overnight? A lot of questions need to be answered. It's pretty easy.
That's an easy answer.
How did police find him so fast? 32nd floor. They don't know where this guy is at the time.
Well, a lot of groundwork. They did a lot of groundwork in a short period of time. They have police officers that are looking at the trajectory circuit. All kinds of things went on, but they did a great job in finding this individual face.
In less than 5 minutes, there'll be a press conference, we understand, from the sheriff, so we'll go to that as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, and that's important, too. They're getting information, critical information out in a very timely manner, and that's good.
They are indeed. We put up an image ago. It's a photograph that somebody had taken who had stayed on the 32nd floor of this particular hotel where the gunman was shooting at the people at this particular event. It looks like the windows don't open on that particular floor. So you might think that that's the image that we're talking about right there. Maybe they were able to figure out where he was because he had to shoot out the window before he could start shooting.
Well, that's possible. I first thought maybe there was a balcony or something on the upper floor. Not at all, no. So that window was knocked out. They probably immediately saw the broken window and went in there.
This is just a floor of an image of a room from the 32nd floor. We don't know that the shooter was there, but we do believe that is the idea where that venue was down below in that empty area.
What this will do is change the law enforcement strategies regarding the securing of a lot of these open-air concerts. We're used to people walking into crowds with knives or guns and committing these acts on the ground. This is probably the first one that I could remember from a very high elevation.
But, one of the interesting things is when, for instance, when there's a presidential visit or something like that, a motorcade, I have heard from Secret Service people that if windows don't open, they don't necessarily worry about that particular building. They worry about the ones where you can crank open the window.
Something to worry about now. And that's where there's going to be a game changer in how police are going to do their security surveys of these venues. It's going to change the game here.
So, Steve, what happens next? Obviously, they have 3 people detained, according to Adam Housley. They're looking for this lady. Maybe she's one of the ones they have detained. Do they look for video of him walking in the hotel? Do they interview people who checked him in? What happens now?
All of the above. They're going to interview every single person that they were in contact with up until the incident. They're going to look at their computers, their cell phones, and video footage is going to be very important. They're probably going to look at that hotel video footage going back to a week, maybe 2 weeks prior to this incident.
It's interesting. We heard in Adam Housley's report somebody who's essentially used a freezer as a gurney as a stretcher. We saw images of people using police barricades as stretchers. It's one of those things where, you know, as bad as it was, people, rather than just thinking about themselves and getting the heck out, they stopped and helped other people.
You know, I don't want to sound like I'm politicizing this, but I'll tell you, this nation should stand up for the police officers, the first responders, and the people that stayed there to save the lives of other individuals, of other Americans. Stand up to do that.
And press conference said that a lot of the off-duty officers, some were casualties at this event. It was filled with a lot of military personnel and off-duty officers who might have just been sitting there or helping out. Regardless, I guess everybody was a sitting duck there.
And Brian, those officers never crossed their mind color, race, or creed. They were fellow Americans in trouble. They went in to save their lives.
Yeah, we're waiting a press conference. You can see the reporters there putting their microphones on the podium. That's the sheriff, it looks like, and he's coming to the microphone. Let's listen in. Steve, Carl? Stand by.
Sounds good to me here.
It's a Fox News alert. You're looking live at the Las Vegas Strip, where at 10 o'clock Las Vegas time, a lone shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel opened fire. At least 20 dead, 100 injured, including 2 police officers.
This is Sheriff Joseph Lombardo. So we are going to, with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And now let's take a pause so our affiliates can join us here on Fox News Channel in just a matter of moments.
Before we get to the bottom of everything associated with it. But it's one of the things I wanted to update you with is we have located the vehicles that I had put out in the first briefing, and we believe we're confident but not 100% sure we have located the female person of interest. So I want the people to feel confident and calm in that aspect, that we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. Now, the number of injuries, I do not know yet, but we are looking in excess of 50 individuals dead and over 200 individuals injured at this point. I do not want to give you an accurate number and it be wrong, so subsequently that is why I'm portraying it in that manner. Now, the suspect, I am going to provide you his identity at this point. His name is Stephen Paddock. Last name spelled P-A-D-D-O-C-K, with the date of birth of 4/9 of 1953. As far as his history and background, we haven't completed that part of the investigation yet, but we located numerous firearms within the room that he occupied, and that's, like I stated earlier, it's going to be a long and tedious investigation. Now, we're bringing in all the resources of the FBI to assist us in this investigation, in particular to their victim witness advocates and their CSI folks to help us process the scene and ensure that we're getting all the evidence that we can possibly obtain. Now, furthermore, I want to provide you the phone number that I said I would provide in the first briefing. That number for family and friends to get an update on loved ones is 1-866-535-5654. One more time, 1-866-535-5654. Obviously, this is a tragic incident and one that we've never experienced in this valley. So what we're going to try to do is the best we can to get our first responders back on their feet and responding and conducting a proper investigation and ensure that we have the safety of this community at heart. My condolences go out to the loved ones that lost their lives and their families, and we will do the best we can to make it as easy as possible for you to get information as we know it. I think it's important for you to see the FBI, County Fire, and Commissioner Sisolak behind me. It shows that we have full support of all the government entities to solve this situation as soon as possible.
Do you have any sense of motive?
No, not yet.
How many law enforcement officers lost their lives?
I don't know yet, because there's some officers from other jurisdictions that was attending the concert, so I don't have an accurate number of that yet.
Have you gotten an update on your officers that have been injured?
One was critical, but he's stable, and one of my officers was off duty attending the concert and lost his life.
Can you give any more details about the firearms that were found in the room?
No, I don't have any more details on the firearms. All we know is they were rifles, and that's all I know at this point. We're executing a search warrant on the room as we speak.
Sheriff, how are you doing? These are your guys that were out there on the block. How are we handling this?
We're holding up, and we're going to do the best we can. And I don't want to say that's what we're paid to do. It's because nobody's paid to do what we're experiencing right now. But in my preview of the police department, they're doing a fantastic job, and we're going to have to look out for their well-being moving forward.
You said there were numerous other firearms found in Stephen Paddock's room. Was that in his home, or was that in the room?
In the room of the hotel. We have officers at his residence. We'll be executing a search warrant there also shortly.
How does the city recover from this? I mean, moving forward, how do we...
That's a hard question to answer at this point. It's too early in the process, and please give us time so we can do a good job. Thank you, and I would provide you an update on a regular basis at approximately a 2-hour window at a time. As you can imagine, we don't get a lot of information all at once, so please bear with us when I provide you information.
Excuse me. Several people on social media are asking where they can donate blood and if they can. Do you have any idea?
The phone number that I provided, we will get that information out. But right now, I'm not comfortable providing that information because we're overwhelmed in the medical services at all the hospitals right now. But the United Blood Services has responded, and then once they get all their personnel on the ground and more people in place, we'll be able to provide that info.
So this is for people looking for their loved ones.
Looking for their loved ones.
Are families still being directed to come here?
Yes, ma'am. There's 2 locations where they have been responding. One is at the South Central Area Command, which is in close proximity to the Mandalay Bay, and then also here. Preferably, we would like them to come to police headquarters on Martin Luther King, so they're not inundated with people responding in that area.
And the families that you're seeing coming, what kind of emotions are they going through?
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.